Nation. Welcome to another edition of Carla's channel, Heart to Heart Inspiration Podcast. We are talking about Chicago South Side during the 50s through the 70s, and Queen Suga is going to be talking to us about the Willis Wagons. I don't know if you all have heard about the Willis Wagons, but you're going to hear unfiltered, unedited story today from Queen Suga, real life experience from her. Before we jump in, if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe and set those notifications for when we go live so that you will never miss any episodes. So, Queen Suga, today we're talking about Willis Wagons. I've never heard of Willis Wagons, but tell us about what that means and why it's so significant.
Okay, I can start by, I just want to say, I want to thank Carla J for having me on to talk to you about Black history, Chicago style. So today we want to talk about Willis Wagons. So during the late 50s, the superintendent of public schools was named Benjamin Willis. And we've talked previously about how segregated Chicago was and actually still is.
Yeah.
So during that time, you could attend public schools. You could only attend a school that was within your zip code.
Okay.
So there was none of this crossing over, or we're going to catch the bus over to the school and go over there.
None of that.
None of that. If you lived in whatever zip code you lived in, that's the school that you went to that was within that zip code.
Okay.
So as we know, because the neighborhoods were segregated, especially during that time, all of the white students traditionally went to white schools in their neighborhoods, and Black children or African-American children attended schools in their neighborhoods, meaning the schools were very segregated.
Okay.
However, the white schools were not overcrowded. In fact, they had a lot of empty seats in those schools. But in the Black schools, there was great overcrowding.
Okay.
So the superintendent, Benjamin Willis, he came up with the idea of having these they called them Willis Wagons. But actually what they were trailers.
Okay, so wait.
The white schools were not at capacity. They had many unoccupied seats.
Oh,
so
okay.
They had plenty of room in those schools.
Okay.
The segregation should have ended. Legally, it was illegal.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Civil rights laws had been passed to end segregation. However, in Chicago, it was not that way in the Chicago public school system.
Okay.
So, like I said, the white schools had many empty seats while Black schools were overcrowded.
Okay.
Okay. So even prior to the Willis Wagons, they had tried to transfer students from Black schools to another Black school, that type of thing.
Okay.
But during this time, Benjamin Willis, who was the superintendent at that time, came up with these trailers that he had or that were placed on the school grounds outside of the school buildings.
Okay.
So these trailers were placed on the parking lots or whatever open ground that was around the schools.
Okay.
And thus they were named Willis Wagons because the superintendent was Benjamin Willis.
Okay, so they're named after him.
Yes, they're named after him. So mind you, these are not attached to the school building, so there's no heat that's coming from the school to those trailers.
Okay.
So these children are placed in there. They go in there. It's like no room really. It's very close quarters in there.
So he came up with these trailers as opposed to allowing Black students to go to attend the white schools.
Absolutely.
So he said, no, segregation is over. But in Chicago, we're not going to integrate children in the schools yet. What we're going to do is allow the white students to still have all of this room in their classrooms, and we're going to put you all in trailers. Okay.
Yeah. Put them in trailers outside of the school buildings.
Okay. No heat. No heat. No AC. I don't know if there was AC and all that during that time, but anyway, you're in these trailers. Okay.
Right, not in the trailers. They had to. The teachers had to come up with very innovative ways to provide the heat and cooling for these students. Now, mind you, this is very close quarters as well.
Okay.
So you step up in the trailer, you just see all of these kids sitting together. So usually a classroom size during that time was easily like 40 students.
Okay.
So you could just imagine, it wasn't a large trailer, but a lot of kids in that trailer. So, kids are sometimes even, in the school building are active,
Right.
So it's kind of cramped quarters there.
Right.
And it wasn't just one wagon or trailer that was on the grounds of schools. A lot of these schools had multiple trailers that were around the school grounds. So it kind of looked at like, a trailer, I don't want to say trailer home, but, where you can camp, like if you're going on a trip, you can park your trailer on these certain grounds for a while. So it was like that. So it was multiple trailers there. The kids had to climb up into the trailer, first of all. So I had the opportunity, one of my sons was actually in one of the Willis Wagons, and one day I had to actually go up to the schools. They were having something up there, and I entered the trailer, or the wagon. Let me tell you, those steps were not steady. They were really unstable. And then when I got up into the trailer to just look out at the children, at these tables or makeshift desks that they had, and it wasn't very light. It was kind of dark and a little dingy. So it wasn't an opportune or nice, happy place.
Okay.
For kids to learn.
Wasn't conducive to learning.
No, I would say
Okay.
no.
Okay. So what happens now? You go to the school or to the trailer. You're in there. Did you have any interactions with the teacher, the principals, or what made you go there? What happened? Give us the tea.
Well, it wasn't anything disciplinary like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. I had to go up there and maybe talk to the teacher about an upcoming event or something like that.
Okay.
So I had went up there for that. But it was not just at this one school. This was all over the south side of Chicago. I know it wasn't just at one school.
Okay.
So many schools, and there are a lot of schools on the south side,
yeah.
but they all had the Willis wagons outside.
Okay.
Yeah. So parents weren't too excited to have their children placed in these Willis wagons, but there wasn't another option at that time.
Okay. So we all in here. What happens next? What happens that sparks this outrage? Because it seems like based on the readings of what happened, there were some boycotts that happened. What sparked this? What happened?
So I believe Dr. Martin Luther King became involved, or in this event of the Willis wagons, and so he started to speak with leaders in Chicago.
Okay.
And so there was a boycott organized for the Chicago Public Schools.
Wow.
So this was a big event. There were thousands of people, students and adults alike, that were going to participate in this protest, if you will, against the segregation in the Chicago Public Schools.
Okay.
So they were all, people were very, because, this is, again, during the era of the civil movement,
right,
quote unquote. So people were kind of feeling invigorated and ambitious that this was going to really be successful in alleviating the overcrowdedness in Black schools.
Okay.
So they were, I remember seeing some newscasts of students being interviewed and asked if they were going to participate in the boycott. And, it was good to just see students, they really wanted to go to school.
Okay.
They wanted to go to school. Okay. So they were looking forward to, having better learning conditions.
Okay.
So they were looking forward, so they interviewed them, so they were going to have the boycott. They set the date. There were different little chants that had been devised, 2, 4, 6, 8. We don't want to segregate.
Oh, wow, I like that.
Yeah.
2, 4, 6, 8. We don't want to segregate. Okay.
Right. So they were really looking forward to having the schools desegregate.
Okay. And I see we have some people on the line in our live cast today. Just want to give a shout out to Jerry. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Heart Nation. Feel free to put where you're calling from. We're so happy that you're joining us. And if you know anything about the Willis wagons in your city or state, put it in the chat. Is this the first time you're hearing about this? So 2, 4, 6, 8. We don't want to segregate. So it was a big day. What happened? Wow.
So they had the big event, the boycott. The boycott was successful in achieving many numbers of people participating. However, it did not end the Willis wagons at that particular time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it wasn't until some years later that they actually were moved or abolished or taken off of the school grounds.
Okay.
And so then they had what was known as a busing program.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, there was a certain criteria that the children had to meet to be eligible to be bused, over to some of these white schools.
Okay.
So, they had to have a certain grade point average,
okay.
No discipline problems, things like that.
Okay.
Right. And it wasn't, it was kind of scary a little bit, because remember, these are children.
Right.
And, they weren't going to be met with a great welcoming committee.
And this is the civil rights movement. People were not kind to Black people, not even children. It didn't matter if you were a child, you were still a Black person. And as a parent, you probably did have some hesitation. You want your child to get a great education, by any means necessary, I would say, but not at the cost of their life. So I imagine that it was pretty scary, like you're saying.
Yes, it absolutely was. So in order to be bused, different schools had different schedules, but some of the common factors of it was they had to be at the school early in the morning, really hours before the regular school day started, because they had to get up there and the school buses will come and take them to the school where they were going to be bused to.
Okay. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, get up early.
Get up early, get out, and then meet that bus, and then be transported to whatever school they were going to be bused to.
In these different neighborhoods.
In these
Going through the
different
different, there are different parts of Chicago that are segregated by nationality, race, and things like that. So that's scary. Going over to Bridgeport or going over to different areas. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and these are children. And I remember I was talking to a lady yesterday. We were talking, and she was saying in the area where she was growing up in, and she lived, which is not far from Bridgeport. She said she told me that some of the residents from Bridgeport would come and stand in the street.
Wow.
To keep them from walking over in that area. They were just, trying to walk through.
Wow.
The neighborhood or go about their day. There wasn't any mischief involved.
And that's...
Yeah, so I remember that one of our very close friend's son wanted to be bused to another school for an increased opportunity for education, less crowding and that type of thing. And let's not forget that, Black schools don't receive the same amount of supplies or that type of thing as the Black schools do.
Right.
So he really wanted to be bused. So his parents were, a little hesitant. They were hesitant to send their child over into that environment. But in the end, he did go. He was bused to another school. Now, mind you, when these buses, you mentioned watching another type of video is how some children were met with animosity and hate,
Right.
So that's what was happening in Chicago, too. Some of the schools where they were being bused to, the parents were all up in the windows, calling these children names and, like you said, telling them, go back. So,
wow. That's something. And the fight for education.
yes.
It was a fight for education. And regardless of what people say, Black people, want to be educated as well to extend our horizons. So your friend, he went there. He got his education. The Willis wagons were eventually taken away. The busing, what happened after that?
Okay, so during the same time, a little bit further, but actually there was what was called redlining as well.
I've heard of that.
Okay, yeah. So that's another way to segregate people.
Yes. And what is that? Tell us what redlining is.
So redlining is, let's say, if they would call what they would have like a red line encircling certain geographic areas.
Okay.
So let's say I wanted to move, we talked about Bridgeport before.
Okay.
So let's say if I wanted to rent or buy in the Bridgeport area, that's a red-lined area. Black folks can't move over there.
Oh, that's what that meant. Okay.
Yeah, so you aren't going to be able to buy a home over there. They aren't going to just come out and tell you that you can't buy a home there, but they're going to come up with these reasons to disqualify you or that type of thing.
So the red line was basically kind of unspoken but spoken. This is another way that Black people have been systematically placed in debt. Placed in higher debt.
Oppressed.
Okay. Right. Oppressed. Oh, that's such a good word. And there's been documentaries on this that years later was found to be that they were overpricing the Black people.
So in view of those things, the redlining, Martin Luther King became involved again. And so he moved his family over on the west side in one of the depressed areas. I'm not exactly sure of the exact area, but I believe it was on Hamlin Street, somewhere over in that area.
So he came. He
moved his family.
He moved his family here for the boycott, or to help Chicago. Right. I do remember seeing a documentary with the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. saying that Chicago was one of the most racist cities he has ever visited. Even more so than the South. He said that. He said that. Wow. So I didn't know he had moved here though. I didn't know he spent some time here, and that's what he based that on. Okay.
Yeah. So him and his family lived in the West Side apartment over there for about 3 months. I believe they lived in that particular apartment for 3 months, and they were there to expose and address, some of the deplorable rental travesties that people had to experience.
Okay. Wow.
So he lived there. They addressed that, and then after that, he moved, I believe, into the Marquette area over there that he tried to. Now that was a white area.
Okay, Marquette.
Yes, and they
did
on
the 67th Street area.
Yeah, through there somewhere, and they actually did have a march over through going through the Marquette area.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, and so I did see a film. Not too long ago, that Carol Mosley Braun, who was an elected official here recently, not too long ago.
Okay, right.
Where she was a young teenager that participated in that march with Martin Luther King over there in Marquette Park.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she said that she remembered marching and that the protesters were, harassing them, and they actually were throwing rocks and different things at them as they marched peacefully. Because, as you know, Martin Luther King was all about the nonviolence.
Right.
So she said she remembers that seeing Martin Luther King get hit in the head with a rock. And she said she wanted to pick up the rock and throw it back. But she said that Martin Luther King did not do that. He simply took a handkerchief from his pocket and put it to the back of his head, and he just kept on marching. Wow. And she said that was where she realized the power of nonviolence.
Wow. And probably more so for yourself.
Yes.
To keep yourself in control and in check, because the violence that people inflict upon you, when you meet that back with violence, sometimes when you meet that back with violence, you really can set a trap for yourself to not be successful or to not reach your goals. So, Queen Suga, we are just about to wrap up soon, but I want to ask Heart Nation out there, have you learned anything that you didn't know before? And today these discussions continue, right? The discussion about equality, they continue. Equality is not just about giving somebody access to a school. It's about making sure that they have the opportunities to feel welcome. They have the opportunities there to experience the same type of love and care and high expectations as everyone else and not being made to feel like you're different. And so we're still fighting for equality. And I know some people don't understand that. We're still fighting for equality, equal access, equal rights. And there is a difference and people may say, oh, it's because the Black people, they don't do enough of this. They don't do enough of that. They should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. We've heard that. And there are many people who try to. And sometimes life just sends you those curveballs, and that's where you land, right? But the solution is not ending programs and things like that benefit the minority. That's not the solution. The solution is finding the root cause and trying to do something about it and making those doors open for people and the opportunities open. So Heart Nation, we thank you again for joining us. Queen Suga, thank you so much